Hello, I have a video, and it's one of these that I'm trying to do more often, so I think this is my second one this year, so better late than never. It's a video review discussion thing on a book, and that book is The Paperman by Gallagher Lawson, right here. So I really like this, and it's currently my staff recommendation at work, and I've recommended it to a few people in person and through the interwebs. And I'm really glad that you guys have picked it up if you have, and if you're thinking about it, just do it. I guess I'll talk a little bit about the plot, without giving too much away. Basically, here's what happens. This is a debut novel, so it's his debut, which is why it's always good to support new authors. Looking at you, BookTube. It's about a guy called Michael, and due to an accident, and the accident's very vague when you eventually find out what it is, you're not entirely sure, he has his whole body reconstructed out of paper. And so he is in his late teens, but he still has the body of not, like, his mind, his brain is sort of older, but he doesn't look like he's the age he's supposed to. His body has stayed the same, has stayed stagnant. He leaves his father and his brothers from this sort of country town where he's from and leaves into the city by the sea. It's a nameless city. You don't know where this takes place, if the place is even real at all. And while there, he meets a bunch of different people who have both positive and negative influences on him. And it's like one of these off-center books, and you have to know this from the very beginning, otherwise I don't know if people would enjoy it as much as I did, because I really liked it. I like the weird and odd, and it's slightly unnerving and unsettling at some points. Things I really liked about the book. Very different than a lot of the things I had read before, which I liked very much. I enjoy reading about characters who are kind of displaced and feel displaced and really aren't sure where exactly they fit into the roles and holes and cracks that society has sort of already kind of placed themselves in, or placed the characters in. I do like stories about that, and whether stories or poems or novels, I tend that they tend to resonate with me a little bit. So that's one reason I really liked this book. A lot of what happens to Michael happens because he is visibly different, which I think could say a lot about the world we live in. He tries his best to hide his appearance, or make himself blend in as best as he could. And I think it's almost an allegory, I think, for certain people who, in order to fit in with society, they try to hide the parts of themselves that make them noticeably different than everyone else around them. In a way, that also resonated with me a little bit, this sort of reservation. Like, Michael has these great dreams and great ambitions, but it's hard for him to make it where he wants to make it, because he is literally made out of paper and has yarn hair and eats shredded newspaper dipped in milk. So in the story, as the book goes on, he meets people who both help him and make his life a little more complicated than what it should be. There are a lot of big themes in this book. Masks, both physical and the allegorical. Throughout the novel, part of it, I should say, Michael meets a character that helps him sort of blend in his face and make it slightly more human looking through the use of these papier-mâché masks. I would like to talk about the whole the portion of being different and feeling displaced and sort of wanting things and not really knowing that you want them. One line that really just hit home is towards the beginning of the book. He's trying to adjust to his new life in the city. Once he's made it there, he makes it there right at the beginning, and certain things happen. He's sort of down on his luck. There's a line that says, "He had never asked himself, 'What do I want?' Only, 'How can I escape?'" And that, I don't want to say it hit real hard, but it made me really think of certain things. The idea of wanting something and not knowing you want it, or wanting something knowing you want it and thinking to yourself, I can't have that, or I shouldn't have that. I should not want this for whatever number of reasons there could be behind that thought process. I think back to one of those sort of rules for writing that some famous authors might list, one of them being Kurt Vonnegut's make the character want something, whatever it is, even if it's a glass of water. And so I think the idea of wanting and I can't say wanting to want, but I guess maybe the desire to have something, not necessarily own it, but for it to be a part of your existence, maybe, I think, is a very human thing. This is a character, Michael, who doesn't feel all that human, even though he knows he's human. He's literally made out of paper. He doesn't have human skin. And he is treated differently at one point, very, very cruelly, because he looks so different. The idea of being different and wanting to fit in, or this desire to fit in, I think is not a driving force of the novel, but definitely something in the background, something to always keep in mind. And as someone who has struggled to fit in and be accepted, it's something I did keep in mind with me as I was reading the book. At one point in the novel, there is this sort of reawakening. I not necessarily call it a reawakening, but a big change for Michael. Not only did he leave home, which is sort of another kind of thing for me, leaving home, but he undergoes a both mental and physical change, and I think that's really well illustrated in a line here. One character who was in a not similar position as Michael, but was from the same town and left the town, says to him this one line that I thought was sort of apropos, I think, to Michael's feelings, I guess, and he says, or she says rather, "You know how it is," she said. "You live in a situation you have no control over, then one day you decide to leave, and you never look back. Then you can be whoever you want to be, start over as many times as you need." And then he responds with, "I know exactly what you mean." This book is, I think, a lot about longing and wanting, and like I said, not knowing what you want, and not being entirely sure what you want until you find it. And that could be for anything, whether it's in the novel, it's people who are complacent in the government or in society until something happens and they sort of rally behind a certain character. It's finding what you want and then realizing you want it and going for it. But that's just part of the novel. The other part, I think, it's part of the structure. Gallagher actually asked me a question about how I write. We were talking. He's very, very nice, and he also plays classical piano like me, but he's way more talented and than I am. I cannot do half the things that he can do on a piano. And he told me that he was asked a question, whether playing piano influences his writing. And so he asked me the same thing. And he gave his answer to that question was he really likes the early 20th century Russian composers, how they have all these sort of distant, dissonant chords and passages, and then that frame these really beautiful lyrical pieces, fragments of compositions. And I did notice that in the structure, not just so much as writing, but plot-wise, all these crazy things start happening, and then there's just this moment of sort of stripped down to like this just bare, raw type of, oh, kind of moment. These are just thoughts of mine, slightly incoherent, possibly, but I really like the novel, and if you're looking for like an off-center, off-key, haha, piano pun in there. No, alright. If you're looking for an interesting novel to read, I would recommend this, because it's always difficult, I think, for a debut author to find an audience, and, you know, I would think that, if I ever get published, you know, I'd like to have some sort of audience, and I would hope that people read my work, if it ever gets to that. So, always support debut authors, you know, always check them out, I think. You know, you might find a favorite book in there somewhere. So I gave this a 5 out of 5 stars on Goodreads. It's one of my favorite things I've read this year. It's currently on my favorites shelf too. And I just really, it struck a chord with me. Hey! So, I'll stop with the piano puns, guys, I'll stop, okay? Not everything is black and white in this novel. That was the last one. Definitely check this out, give it a go. You can order it off IndieBound, support the independent bookstores. I work at one, support us, because, you know, it's needed. It's strange, it's humorous, it's sexy. There are some sexy bits in there for those of you who like a little sexy bits in your books. It's odd, which I love. I really liked it, and I hope that you guys like it too. Because it's always slightly disappointing when I recommend a book to someone and they come back to me and they tell me they didn't like it. Everyone's different, I understand, but I hope you like it, and I hope you check it out, and I hope that this review discussion, maybe, can sort of, you know, change your mind and, you know, sway you one way or the other, hopefully positively. I'm really trying to get better at reviews and stuff, but, so if you have any suggestions for reviews or things I should look for, those are always really appreciated. I'm always open to suggestions and commentary, as long as it's constructive and positive and is aimed to help and, you know, not make me feel bad about myself, because that's not cool. Okay, that's it, and I'll hopefully be back with another video, maybe a writing video, because I haven't done one in a while. Yeah, okay, thanks for watching. Bye.